and welcome to Therabites, where we bring you bite-sized episodes, each one a piece of the puzzle that helps to explain the therapy world, the research behind it all, and how it relates to families. My name is Dr. Dana Poole, physiotherapist and clinical lead at the Healthy Strides Foundation. It is my privilege to be hosting this podcast, one that is directed for families of children with neurodisabilities. We hope to be able to answer some of your questions through this format. To help us navigate our way through these big questions, we have the lovely, the one and only Kate co-hosting this podcast. Welcome, Kate.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hello. It's good to be back again.
It's so good to be back.
I love having these chats.
Me too. Very educational and fun.
And fun.
Yeah.
And fun. And we just get to, I don't know, we just spend a bit of time in the studio, chat about some things, give some random facts.
You know they're my favourite.
Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
This one's not too random. This is actually quite a well-known scientific fact. But I thought now that we're currently in spring, it's getting lighter, it's beautiful, everyone's got better mood, and there's actual proper science to support this.
Okay.
So we're going to talk a little bit about morning light. And did you know that morning light has tremendous positive effects?
Awesome. I mean, I know it does for me, but I didn't know it was scientific.
It is properly scientific. So it's about how things are viewed, how light is taken into your eyes and how it translates that into your brain. So put really simply, it actually can support mental health, physical health and performance. It's like everything, right?
Yep.
So the key to this, though, is in the first few hours of waking up, and ideally as soon as you can really, is to be able to see some morning light. So you don't need to look into the sun because that would be really bad. I haven't heard of people doing that. People have to warn them otherwise. But if you can look outside, so even if it's winter time for you, and if you can look outside and you can still see things, you don't need a torch, there's still some morning light there.
Yep.
And taking in that morning light, even if there's cloud cover, so no sunglasses on, just looking out, it can actually do some really important things. One, it increases your dopamine, so that's so important for motivation. So people feel like they're a bit shy of motivation in a day, go out and look at some morning light.
Yeah.
And the other thing it increases the early day cortisol release. And sometimes you always go, ooh, cortisol bad. But no. Cortisol released early in the morning is really good because that's the time for elevated cortisol. Okay. And that sets up your body to be able to sleep later on that night.
Amazing.
But it influences your immune system. So you can enhance your immune system, your metabolism. That's always a goer.
That's great. Yep.
And your ability to focus during the day. So it just resets your circadian clock, but it increases that cortisol, increases that dopamine. Do it in the morning. It's just so important.
That's a really good one.
Isn't
I
it?
loved that one.
It's actually a really good reminder.
It does make sense, but it's nice to hear it and be reminded of that. Exactly as you say, a good reminder.
And you do hear too, so a lovely friend of ours who has been on the Research Works podcast before, and she's an occupational therapist, Sue McCabe.
Yes,
she
Sue.
researches a lot about sleep, and she would often say that's a very simple recommendation if your child's waking up at night, different times or has difficulty going to sleep. Well, in the morning, help to set that circadian clock by making sure you at least maybe open the blinds or sit outside for a little bit while you have your breakfast and get that morning light in, and it can help you set that circadian clock for later.
That's great. That's very
cool,
helpful.
Right? Yeah.
Very cool.
Really, really good one. So anyway, that was my not so random fact. It was actually really important.
Yeah, really important. Yep. Great reminder. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. What do you have for us to discuss today?
Okay. So this is a great question that came from one of our fantastic Healthy Strides families.
Cool.
And I'm sure that a lot of families come across this at some point with their children. I'd like to think it's simple, but it's probably not. But here we go. When should therapy be put on hold? When should we be holding off on therapy? What would cause that?
Okay. Well, there's in my mind, I think of two things. There's the one that's the really positive one where you're in control and you make that decision. And the not so positive one that sits on the other side, I don't think it's necessarily negative, but it's like the reasons why you would put it off because of life circumstances, right?
Yeah.
So and sometimes they're out of your control. So let's talk about the ones that are in your control first.
Sure.
And the way I view therapy, and I've kind of talked about it before, is I view it as being really seasonal. Like it's you do therapy so that you can bridge the gap between where you are at and where you want to be.
Yes.
And when you view it in that sort of way, you can go, okay, what's the purpose of my therapy? I'm not doing therapy to be good at therapy. I'm doing therapy so I can do something that helps me at school or helps me to be more active, helps me to be more regulated, like all those reasons. So once you can achieve that, or you set your goal and you've achieved that, which is why goal setting is so important, you can then go, okay, we've achieved that now. Great time to have a break. So you can put therapy on hold.
Yep. Okay.
That's a real in-control scenario.
That's a great scenario to be in.
It is. It really is. And they do happen, like, you don't want to be in therapy all the time because you do want to have the chill out time. You want to have these beautiful family holidays where you're not having to think about going to appointments. You don't want therapy to be taken over your life because I think as parents, as parents, you'll remember when you were a child, your fondest memories are often not when you're at appointments.
No, I can't remember any appointments from my childhood.
No, because your parents wanted you to have rich experiences. So that might be camps, family holidays, not even just holidays, maybe just walking down to the park to have a picnic. It's all those other things. Yeah, that's right. And so for our kids, we still want them to have those opportunities. It's so important. Those are the things you're going to cherish and remember.
Yes.
So therapy is really just the conduit to that, not an all the time thing.
Yep.
Do you agree?
I totally agree. I mean, look, it took me a while to get there.
It's hard, really hard, because
there's a lot of guilt for us.
Probably the first one.
For us families, there's a lot of guilt associated with taking a break. And I think it's, for us especially, it's been lived experience that has taught me that. You could have told me it a million times, but until I lived it, breathed it and understood it, it didn't make sense to me.
True, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we put up a social media post just a few weeks ago about a family that we see in Malaysia. And they took a 1 month break off and, they've gone through a lot to try to get therapy. It's quite hard in Malaysia. Yeah. And we posted because Mum had created this video of everything they did in that month. And it was beautiful. It was wholesome. He enjoyed life. He did artwork. He went to the shops, went to the movies, went to camp. And then he was able to do all those things because he'd gained new skills. And now he comes back really refreshed going, okay, my next goal is
and he's probably honed in those skills as well.
That's right. That's right. So that's when things are in your control, right? When you go, okay, this is what we want to be able to do, which is why setting goals is so important and making sure they're measurable. Otherwise, it's just this endless journey and search for achieving to what end, you know? But once you achieve that goal, celebrate it. Because us as humans, we just settle back again, like we readjust, we go, this is our goal, but we achieve it. We're like, oh, great. All right, what's the next goal?
Yes.
Right, so celebrate that goal by going, okay, so what can we do? What does this goal mean to us? Which is why goals that are meaningful, not be like, so, if you want to set a goal for someone to be able to stand on one leg for 5 seconds, you kind of go, all right, why?
Yeah.
Because once you've achieved that 5 seconds, what does that actually mean? If it means something, then you can go,
that was
well done. Yeah. Really great. How can we take that break? And then once we have that break, we can think about what that next step might be. Yeah. And that's a more genuine experience of how therapy can fit into life. But you're right. Like, you have to get past that first initial stage of feeling really guilty. And part of our job is to help you to go, they're doing really well. Let's reassure. Yeah. And if we have that really honest relationship and it's based on wanting the best for you and your family, then we can have those honest discussions.
Yes.
And say that. So that's when things are within your control.
Yep. Love that.
Now, there's plenty of things that are not within your control.
Yes, there are. Needed a deep breath for that one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there'll be times where the number one thing would be, the really obvious one would be, say, let's talk about illness. If your child is going through a stage where they just, you feel like you can't catch a break, they're sick, it's one respiratory infection after the other, there's endless appointments that just seem to come up, those are really obvious times to take a break. But they might not seem so obvious sometimes because you'll try to keep everything going.
Yes. Yep. 100%. That is exactly what you try and do. Yeah. Or you kid yourself, they're not that bad. Or it's just it's the tail end of something or whatever. And we know that dosage is so important to be able to learn to do something. Like with any of us, if you're trying to learn how to do something, that consistency and practice, which is why we do intensive therapy, that consistency of practice is what's going to help you to achieve it.
you miss 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions because you're sick, can't be helped. But it also tells you that you're probably in the stage where this is not the best time.
Yeah.
And you are better off relieving yourself of that guilt of trying to make all those appointments.
Yes.
And also just giving yourself a bit of a break to kind of go, okay, well, maybe this is a good time to take a break. Let's get healthy.
Yes.
Let's make sure our family is well, because if we can do that, then everyone benefits from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not constantly running around. You seem to relate to this quite well, hey, Kate. Talk me through some of your experience with that, like and what you've
most
gone through your head.
definitely. Yeah. Again, it's been a learned experience. It's not something that was really common sense to me, which, I think, again, because of all the pressure that we put on ourselves. And then I guess we apply that pressure to our children, not really knowing that we're doing that.
Yeah.
And so that has definitely been a thing for me now, is when he's unwell, is canning it, whereas I probably would have pushed until he told me.
Yes.
Or made it clear that he wasn't having a bar of it. But I think we learned pretty quickly that when they're unwell, they're not taking things in. There's not as much advantage to them. And he would be better off getting better. It's a shorter period of time to get better when you're not taking him out, exposing him to other things.
Yeah. And everyone's just run down.
Exactly.
Everyone, right?
Yeah. And so, illness is definitely one that we've learned now. And I think, again, having a really supportive team has been a big piece of that. So we have teams, whether it be you guys or our other community therapists, that will say, have a break. We're not going to charge you for this. We've got so much paperwork to do. We can do someone else's notes, or we can see another child that's on a wait list, or you've got an NDIS plan meeting coming up. I can do his notes for that. So they're always so accommodating, and they never make us feel guilty or bad and I think that's a huge thing for us being able to take that step back and put therapy on hold, knowing that there's not that huge cost associated with it, and we're not getting that benefit from it, but then also that everyone's supporting doing the right thing for our child.
Look, I love that you brought that up, because I think sometimes I do hear within conversations about the pressure of having to continue with sessions because they'll lose their time slot if they don't go to that time slot, or they'll get charged a certain amount or whatever that might be. And I think that's why it's so important to have those conversations early on with your service provider.
Yes.
Because it is the reality of being a child.
Yes. Yep.
And what might happen from that. But it is so important that we have those conversations straight up at the beginning, which is why you do service agreements. You actually understand what the terms and conditions are, and for the providers that you work with, just to make sure that you're not feeling the pressure of just continuing to go because you've already paid for the sessions, or you're too worried that you'll lose your time slot.
Yeah, exactly. And I know it's a respect on both ends, right? It's also that they're running a business. So if you call in an hour before your session, I absolutely expect to be charged for that session, even if I'm calling that morning or something. That's whereas, if I'm letting them know the day before or something, it's so nice when they say, that's okay, don't worry about it. Oh my gosh, I've got so much work to do. I'm going to do something else. Or, I've actually got a little kid in that area. I can go and see them. They're on our wait list. So it's just so nice.
It's balancing. It's a balance
of respect between the family and
I agree.
I
agree. I think that's really important. So that's definitely one area where I would say be able to make that call, but be able to have that conversation.
Yes.
I think that's really important, and that trust relationship of respect and integrity, and professionalism. That's where all this comes into place.
Definitely.
And, we've spoken about before, like what therapy providers you go to see. There is a relationship that is built, and that's part of that sort of feel of like, oh, this feels good.
Yes.
These are sort of my people.
Absolutely. Yeah. When they feel like family and they treat you like family.
Yeah, that's right.
That's when you know you found the right people.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
So that's one of them. I know the other one I know that we've spoken about before is, and a lot of kids go through, is if they have changes in their seizure management plans or medications as a result. They always go hand in hand.
Yep.
And when that happens, we know that children are so tired after they have the seizures, or you're having new medications and the medications make them so tired, right? They're sleepers all over the place.
Yes.
Again, not the best conditions to be then going, let's learn a new skill.
Yeah, let's go do an intensive block of therapy.
Yeah. Not the time to do it.
Yeah.
And again, having those conversations is really important, because ultimately we want to make the most of that time when they're alert and they are motivated, they're actively engaged. Those are just essential ingredients to learning new skills.
Yes, agreed. Again, another thing we had to learn. But yes, we got there and we learned that one too.
Yep. And even if just having this conversation through this podcast just helps you to go, oh, yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We can let's have that conversation and see how we can plan around that.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to hear that from someone else to be like, oh, that's my approval, that's my validation, whatever it is that you need. Because I know I've needed that the whole way through on decisions like that. I've needed someone to validate that decision for me or approve that decision.
Yep. Because again, it's that guilt. It comes down to that.
Yeah, you just want to do the best thing for your child, and sometimes you don't realise what that is. You get the wires crossed a little bit. Yes.
Yeah, everything's always done with the best of intentions, and I think it's
absolutely
the consequence is for you as a parent, as a family. That's the most important.
Definitely.
Yeah. The other one I think probably is a bit more of the plan side, which I didn't cover off before, is when we know that we're going through a significant life event. For example, your kid's about to start school.
Yes.
When you know that's happening, you know there's going to be, plan ahead for that so that, because you know it's going to be a new school, you're going to be meeting the teacher, you're going to be navigating, everything like that. That's a time where you might just say to your therapist, you might either need their help, so you plan ahead for it. So they go, okay, can we have some school visits to help with this transition?
Instead of after school or something.
That's right, yeah. So I'll take all the sessions that you might have planned or plan around that. That's probably not the time to have so many new things, because our children need to learn how to regulate themselves in that new environment. And you as a parent probably needs to learn how to regulate yourself in that environment too.
Most definitely.
New schoolyard, new family dynamics, friends. It's like you've gone back to high school again.
It is. Yeah, it really is.
Who do I talk to?
Relatable. Yes.
But that's also a time, and we've often done that here, where we might, when the start of one of our blocks would be like, oh, wow, that looks like it's term 1. We actually just push that back because we just know that kids need to start school.
That's exactly what we've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've planned all around starting the new school year.
Yeah.
We've just putting everything on hold for that first term just to let our little dude get fully adjusted.
Yeah. Yep.
And then once he's settled in,
Yep.
we can get on
and
with it again.
And I think it all comes down to how can you set yourself up for a win? I feel like that summarises everything we've spoken about.
Yep, absolutely.
Because you want to do that for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't make it hard.
No.
Yeah.
But we do that to
we
ourselves.
do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a really good question. I think we hopefully helped people to make those calls and not feel guilty about it, because we know you're going to feel guilty about it, but give yourself a break and help yourself to set yourself up for a win. Your future version of yourself will be pleased.
Yes, they will be.
That past version of yourself thought about you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm sure that we can come up with another a few other ideas and we can pop those on the blog as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be really good. All that lived experience, Kate. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, to all of our listeners, hope you enjoyed that. Hope that helped you. And stay tuned for so much more. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you for the questions.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.